Court has adjourned in the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial. Earlier, the judge expressed concerns about the safety of the witness who has been cross-examined by defense lawyers. Constable Sizwe Zungu placed the accused at false Loras on the night of the murder. Questions also arose about the witness's statement and the notes used to type it up. The judge told the state to ensure there's enough security for the witness as he travels to KwaZulu-Natal to get the original statements made. Linda Mnisi has been following the trial and joins us now in studio. Linda, thank you for coming through. The judge was so concerned about the witness's safety that he said, I hope that when court resumes on Monday, this witness will still be alive.
Interesting, Clement, and you'll remember the backdrop of that is, evidence that we heard or concerns that we heard this morning when the state arrived and was raising concerns about what had happened when he was giving testimony. The witness was giving testimony yesterday during, of course, evidence in chief. You'll remember there was a video that was played this morning depicting accused number 5 making what the state calls trigger-pulling gestures towards the witness. The state raised concerns saying that the court should take note of it because it is important and could amount to contempt of court. This is now with regards to the interference with witnesses and all of those things. And they're saying this is very important because now it also amounts to intimidation. The court warning the accused that such behavior will not be allowed in court, and it does indeed amount to the interference with witnesses. But the judge also mentioning, Clement, that this is not the first time that such gestures are made to a witness. There was a witness who was testifying and made an about turn with his statement or his testimony, and he says similar gestures were made. So the judge saying that it is important and he sees it, he recognizes everything that happens in court and that it should stop. Now, you speak about the statements that were spoken about just before we adjourned. There was an issue, of course, around the statements and how the statements were taken down, and it was ultimately decided that the statement, or rather the witness, would go down to KZN, where he says that he kept his notes when he was writing the statement. Now, the judge raising again the concern around whether or not the witness has enough protection to go home, leave, the place where he's secured and made safe, to go to KZN to collect those statements. In fact, he did say, he's quite concerned whether or not this witness will come back alive. And the state assured the court that additional protection, his safety, in fact, was tightened following that video that we saw this morning in court.
So the constable also placed the accused in false Loras on the night of the murder, but they seem to be denying that.
They seem to be denying that. Quite interesting, because if you listen to his evidence in chief, he did in fact say that they were there in false Loras on the day that Senzo Meyiwa was killed, but also referring to them with their nicknames. If you remember, he mentioned accused number 2 as having been Mafika, accused number 3, Gadla, accused number 5, Nkani. He says he knows them, but most importantly, he says he knows accused number 1 and 2 from Nongoma in KwaZulu-Natal. Accused number 1 in particular is his neighbor, and accused number 2 lives in the same area. So these are people that he knows. But here in Johannesburg, in Gauteng, he knew accused number 3, 4, and 5. He knew them from Gauteng. And when they met on that said day, they were with his nephew, who, of course, had invited him over. They were drinking, having lots of meat and alcohol, and dancing on the very same day. This is the day that Senzo Meyiwa was killed. But accused number 1 says, in fact, he is not his neighbor. He denies that this guy is his neighbor. In fact, he says he comes from a different area, which is Mahlabathini in KwaZulu-Natal. He also says on the said day, he was not in Gauteng, so he was not there. Same with accused number 2. Accused number 2 says he has never met the witness and was not in Gauteng on the day.
What about the assertion that the men were celebrating on the night of the murder and that there was whiskey involved as well? Yeah. How far did the constable go with that information and how he got hold of it?
Yeah, it was in fact during the point where he was asked about why he was certain that these are the people that actually killed Senzo Meyiwa. And what he tells the court is that through the information that he had gathered, I mean, after the shooting, he says he heard, it was confirmed through media reports that Senzo Meyiwa had indeed died, when on the day accused number 2 mentioned that, hey, did you guys hear that Senzo Meyiwa had died? Now, this was after they had returned in haste, going to his nephew's bedroom where they had firearms. And initially, he poured cold water on that statement, but when it was now confirmed by media reports and then the descriptions were given by newspapers, he then realized that, in fact, the descriptions that are being given by the media match the people that I was with on Sunday at the hostel. So this could be these people. He gathered his own information, and ultimately he realized that these are the people because of the description, the dreadlocks and the hoodie situation. And he says, well, at that particular point, I then looked at the things that were happening, including a celebration which included, buying of whiskey and celebrating that Senzo Meyiwa had died.
Okay, so Monday, is the weekend sufficient time for the witness to get the statements and sort that out, and Monday, is he back on the stand?
Monday is back on the stand, and it's interesting, Clement, when you look at the issue around the statements, because what he tells the court is that these statements were just notes, or these notes were just some things that I was referring to when I was meeting the police officers discussing this matter. I would jot down the dates and so on and so forth. So these are just things that I was taking on the side, and he tells the court that they were not commissioned, so the admissibility of those notes become something that might be an issue come Monday. But he also, during cross-examination with Sipho Ramusipili, who's representing accused number 1 and 2, said that I made the statement, I jotted down the statement, I signed it, and I handed it over to the police, who then typed it out. So it's going to be interesting watching what they do with the statements, because he says the discrepancies that are in the statements are the name changes. For example, he made mention earlier that accused 1, 2, 3 were the ones that came back on the night Senzo Meyiwa was killed. Came back hastily, rushed into his nephew's bedroom. That's where he saw the firearms. But in the statement, he actually mentions accused 1, 2, and 5, and he said it was in fact supposed to be accused 1, 2, and 3. So the issue is just the name, not the entire conversation. No. So the judge has invited all the legal representatives to make submissions on the admissibility of the statements, and he said, well, if they're not ready by Monday, they can always do it on Tuesday or Wednesday.
All right, Mnisi, thank you so much for that update.